I'm joined by Congressmember Ritchie Torres of New York. Congressmember, we got to talk about the circus that's been brought into D.C. from not all that much drama to the clown show. I guess let's start with the Director of National Intelligence nominee by Donald Trump, Tulsi Gabbard. What's your reaction to that, Congressman?
You know, there's a Turkish proverb that if a clown goes into a palace, the clown does not become a king, the palace becomes a circus. And we're seeing the transformation of the American presidency into a circus, with Tulsi Gabbard as the potential Director of National Intelligence and Matt Gaetz as the potential Attorney General. And both are absurdities. Both will make an absurdity of the federal government as we know it. I mean, Tulsi Gabbard might be compromised. And as the Director of National Intelligence, you have a bird's eye view of all the intel of the federal government. And I have no confidence that she can be trusted with leading the intelligence community in the United States. So the Senate should reject her. And then Matt Gaetz is the subject of a sex trafficking investigation. If that is not disqualifying, then I'm not sure what would be.
What's the vibe on the Hill now, not just among Democrats, but of Republicans? Republicans went along with this. They went full MAGA. This is what they wanted. I mean, what are you hearing behind the scenes?
Look, even Republicans are in a state of shock at the absurdity of these appointments. And, the message from Democrats is, we told you so. We told you that Donald Trump is going to be every bit as vindictive, every bit as incompetent, every bit as absurd as he's ever been. He's never going to change because that's who he is. And that's who he always has been and always will be.
Look, you sit on the Financial Services Committee. I would assume that when it comes to creating new government agencies, they have to go through process. There has to be looking at budgets and financing things. So just explain to me, do you even know what Trump is talking about when Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy say they're creating an agency called DOGE? And I've heard some people go, well, it's not a government agency. Well, here's what we just found out on Twitter, which is now X today. It has the gray check mark, which signifies that it is an official United States government agency. That's how it's being promoted. And here's the message from DOGE, which is named after the Bitcoin meme thing that Elon Musk was involved in. We are very grateful to the thousands of Americans who have expressed interest in helping us at DOGE. We don't need more part-time idea generators. We need super high IQ small government revolutionaries willing to work 80 plus hours per week on unglamorous cost cutting. If that's you, DM this account with your CV. Elon and Vivek will review the top 1% of applicants. So apparently you have to be a verified user on a social media account. There's so many issues here. Where do we begin, Congressman?
Well, the Department of Government Efficiency exists only in the imagination of Elon Musk. You cannot establish a government agency with a check mark on X or by tweet. It has to be established by a law by Congress. There has to be funds appropriated for it by Congress. And so DOGE is pure fiction. And I just find it amusing that there's a government agency, a fictional government agency named after a meme coin with not one, but two department heads, which to me is a sign of inefficiency.
So what are they just going to have a make-believe agency that does make-believe work with make-believe cabinet secretaries? And that's what's happening in DC now. And they're going to just pretend to have the trappings of government and people, apparently some of your MAGA colleagues are just going to even go along with this and pretend like this mock agency is real. What are we even talking about right now?
I mean, I'm not even sure what we're describing because there's no precedent for this kind of absurdity. Like, we're literally, Donald Trump is announcing appointments on Truth Social, and you have Elon Musk announcing new agencies on X. Like, all of it is unconventional. We've entered the realm of the absurd. And what we're seeing is political theater rather than the kind of serious problem solving that the American people need.
That brings me to, and I think we have the clip of this. I mean, one of the things that I was saying, like even during the Republican National Convention, right, their keynote speaker was Hulk Hogan. And it was straight out of the scene of Idiocracy. I mean, he was the speaker before Trump. He pulls off his shirt and he goes, "The Hulkamania is coming to your town and I'm going to get you." And I'm watching this thing, and I'm like, what in the heck is going on? And now when I'm watching these, CNN panels, for example, which I turn off pretty quickly upon turning them on. Here's types of things that I see. Here's Scott Jennings, for example, who's like their MAGA person, right? And he's up there defending their policies and saying, here's what we're going to do. Like, here's what it's become right now. Let me just show you this clip and get your reaction. Play it.
All right. If Marco Rubio does in fact become Secretary of State, we're going to need a new senator from the state of Florida. And we need someone with Rubio's national security credentials. Now, there's one Floridian who can do it. He stood up to the Russians and the Iranians in the 1980s when he defeated the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov, two of America's most lethal foes. He is a real American. He fights for the rights of every man. He knows that courage is the thing that keeps us free. Ladies and gentlemen, I announce Ron DeSantis, get on it. Hulk Hogan for U.S. Senate. And what you going to do, Chuck Schumer, when Hulkamania runs wild on you, brother?
All right, we got to leave it.
It would perhaps be somewhat humorous if Hulk Hogan wasn't the keynote speaker at the RNC, who was a major surrogate for Donald Trump on Fox, talking about tariffs and lying to the people about what tariffs are. And now, Congressman, you've got people in your district and elsewhere Googling, what's a tariff? What are all of these things?
It feels like the second Trump presidency is going to be the new WWE or WWF. It's professional wrestling. Like the line between the theatricality of professional wrestling and the theatricality of politics under Donald Trump has all but collapsed. And it's and all of it would be comical where the consequence is not so serious. Like people are struggling. People are struggling to put food on the table and pay their bills and keep their families afloat. And instead of receiving serious problem solving, we're going to see nothing but 4 years of political theater, the new WWF under Donald Trump.
Look, to be fair, I mean, with respect to the election, the theater seemed to work over people with the reality of the different visions that were being put forward. So how do you connect now with not just your constituents, but with the American people, who bought into that, but are now going to see the consequences of it? I try not to be a told you so, told you, I want to be constructive about it. But how do we deal with this moment where if Trump does the things he says he's going to do, bloody mass deportations, meaning ICE going into districts like yours, work raids, knocking on doors, dragging people's families. And I'm sure you heard it in your district and across. That's not going to happen to my family. They're talking about these people. When this goes down, how do we deal with it? How do we message to people and be both caring but constructive and productive?
Look, I said to my constituents, Donald Trump is no friend of the Bronx. He's a snake oil salesman. He's not to be trusted. We saw Donald Trump catastrophically mismanage COVID-19, the global pandemic, which led to depression-level unemployment in the Bronx. But as a party, we have to, address the bread and butter concerns that people have. People vote largely based on affordable cost of living, public safety, health and housing, schools and jobs. And we need to be a party that fights for working people, that delivers for working people, that's seen as effective at governing, that's an alternative to the dysfunction and extremism of Donald Trump and congressional Republicans.
So finally, Congressman, what's next? Democrats, opposition party, both in the Senate and, unfortunately, it was called in the House as well, although, we'll assume opposition party in the House as well. What's the role going to be? What does that mean? What are you going to do on a day-to-day basis, with this environment and the role that exists right now?
Look, Donald Trump is like, a broken clock is right twice a day, and Donald Trump may be right twice a day. And when he's right, we will cooperate with him, but he's going to be wrong on most issues. And we have to oppose him with every fiber in our being because he is a threat to everything that we stand for as a Democratic Party. We should look to, Hakeem Jeffries, who's the leader of House Democrats, for guidance. I think one of the rays of hope in an otherwise dark, depressing election season was New York. Under the leadership of Hakeem Jeffries, we saw the transformation of the New York Democratic Party. We won back almost all the congressional seats that we had lost. We won on the strength of candidates like Josh Riley and Tom Suozzi and Laura Gillen and Pat Ryan. And so New York is an example of the way forward. It's an example of how we can win as a Democratic Party against the party of Trump.
Yeah, and just a footnote to that, in certain districts like the 3rd, Suozzi, an area where Trump actually won by 19,000 votes, but someone like Suozzi wins by 9,000, 10,000 votes, showing that also there is a message that connects. The Democratic congressional candidates in New York connected that message with the people, and it is a template, which is why I wanted you on here to share your views and vision with the country, because it's a vision that worked in New York and beat Trump in the congressional races. So I thank you for joining us, and I hope you come back, and we'll be following all of your floor speeches and a fervent and pro-democracy opposition. Thanks, Congressman.
Pleasure.
Everybody hit subscribe. Let's get to 4 million subscribers by the end of this month. Thanks for watching.
Real quick, Meta just changed their algorithm to suppress political content. Please follow our Instagram @MeidasTouch right now as we head towards 400,000 followers so you don't miss a beat.